G'day everybody and welcome to another Cooey podcast. I'm Scott Poynton. This one's about earthworms. Yes, earthworms, my favourite subject, as in soil, waste, recycling, joy and happiness, and the efforts of yet another inspiring teacher, Briony Taylor, to help broaden her students' education. Like Robin Tyner, who I interviewed last week, Briony teaches at the International School of Geneva's Chataigneraie Campus. Briony goes about her work in a quiet and humble way, but nonetheless, she has a huge impact on the lives of the kids she teaches. Briony teaches the Class 1s. These are the little 5-year-olds having their first experience of school. So she's at the opposite end of the whole school experience from Robin, who looks after the kids in their final 2 years. About 4 years ago, I heard news that some of the teachers in the primary school and some parents were setting up an eco-garden. And a special shout out to you, Julie Webster, for leading that. Their aim was to teach the kids about nature, food, and just generally how to grow stuff. I figured it would be cool if they could also learn about recycling. What if they put their snack and lunchtime food waste, their apple cores, banana skins, stuff like that, and maybe some of their paper into a worm farm to make super duper sensational compost that they could then put back on their eco garden? Briony thought this would be a fine thing, so I bought a worm farm and went off to the school to set it up with Briony and her class of willing and very excited kids. It was an absolute hoot, as some of the kids fell instantly in love with the worms and wanted to hold on to them, while others were seriously grossed out by the whole experience. Over time though, the kids got into their farm and Briony has become an expert worm farmer. It was such a success in her classroom that other teachers across the primary school got worm farms too. There are now at least 10 worm farms in the primary school and kids are learning a lot about growing food and recycling. I reckon Briony and the other teachers are doing a great job with the eco garden and worm farming. I hope you enjoy meeting Briony Taylor, an inspiring teacher and worm farmer extraordinaire. So here we are at the International School of Geneva, Chataigneraie Campus, and I'm with Briony Taylor. Good morning, Briony.
Hi, Scott.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. And look, we're here to talk about earthworms. And who doesn't like earthworms? I mean, really, they're such great animals. And but first, I'd like to know a little bit about you. Tell us a bit about your background.
So I was born in Australia, and my dad was in the army, so we moved every 2 years. We lived all around Australia. We lived in Malaysia for a couple of years. Then we lived in New York for 2 years and back to Australia, and I did high school and university in Australia.
Okay, what did you study at university?
Primary school teaching. Primary
school teaching. So what inspired you to become a teacher? What was your interest in kids, I guess? And
I always liked kids, and I come from a family of teachers. My grandmother was a teacher, my aunties, my uncles are teachers, and it just seemed natural.
So you graduated from uni, and did you work in Australia? I mean, you had that international background. Here you are at an international school. So yes. Did you come straight here, or where did you go first?
I graduated from uni and I moved straight to London, where I taught for 18 months. And then I came to Geneva, and I've been here for 11 years now.
11 years at the school?
6 years at this school.
Okay, so you've got a bit of a building career in teaching. What inspires you? What gets you out of bed every morning to rush to school? I'm sure there's days when you're feeling a bit manky and the kids have been a bit naughty the day before because you're teaching. I should ask you what grade, what age group are you teaching here, Briony?
So I teach year 1.
Right, so they're real little ones.
Yeah, 5 turning 6.
Okay, so what gets you out of bed in the morning?
I think it's people. I like coming to school and being around young people, old people, my friends. Yeah, it is people who inspire me. I love being outside. We do a lot of outdoor learning at the school. I love my job. I get to come and do a different thing every day.
It's a lot of fun.
It's fun.
And of course, earthworms inspire you.
I love worms.
You love worms. Who doesn't? As I said at the start, who doesn't like earthworms? So tell us about the earthworm project here in the primary school in Chataigneraie. I don't think it's got to the secondary school yet. That's uncharted territory, perhaps. But,
I think so.
But tell us about the earthworm project here at the primary school.
A few years ago, you inspired us with the earthworms. You came into our class and helped us to set up a worm farm, which was a great success. And it took me probably a year or so to get used to the worm farm and get it right. And then I knew straight away that it's something that other classes should experience as well, because I was seeing through all the children that passed through my class how much they were getting from it. So then last year I thought about how we could get more farms into the school, and I applied for a PTA grant.
That's the Parent Teachers Association.
Yeah, and they granted it. The PTA had provided money a couple of years ago to help us set up an eco garden outside for the kids to work in and learn in. So this was very much the worm farms complement the eco garden. So the PTA were very happy to support the worm farm project. And we had enough money to get 8 new worm farms in the school. There was already one of our year 3 teachers already got her own worm farm and had set that up. So now with mine, hers and the 8 new worm farms, there's 10.
10 worm farms.
10 worm
Churning
farms.
through all the compost. Yeah, that's terrific.
I think we have 27 classes in the school, so we're almost halfway.
Okay.
But it was something that I didn't want to push on anyone, because some people don't like worms or they don't know much about worms yet. So it was something very much that I wanted teachers who are interested and want a worm farm in their class to be part of, especially at this stage.
Yeah. So to tell us about how the kids initially interacted with worm farm. I remember when we came and set it up, there was lots of squeals of joy and horror and, oh, look at the worms. And but mostly the kids were pretty interested in it. And I remember, they had all their apple cores and they were chucking them in. And how did that grow? How did the kids' interaction with the worms and the farm grow, and what happened when, for example, the worms started converting that waste into really good quality compost? Did they get that out onto the eco garden?
They do, and we have lots of plants in our classroom as well, which they fertilise with the worm farm products. But yes, for sure, at the start, the children do scream. They're a bit grossed out, but they're definitely intrigued by them. It takes a few months and then the kids really want to start touching them. At first, they don't want to touch them at all. They don't even want to lift the lid up sometimes to look at them. But now, a few months into the year, they're definitely interested in them, want to interact more with them and care for them as well, really concerned for them.
How do the worms feel about that?
I think they're very lucky worms.
I think they are. They're living in a nice place and they get good food and lots of love and care.
Yeah.
Worms, they eat the food that we put, like apple cones and banana skin and a bit of paper.
Is there anything that worms don't like?
They don't like oranges, they don't like ice cream, they don't like sugar, they don't like salt. It's good for the plants.
How is it good for the plants? What do they do with the paper?
They eat it and then they pull it out and then they can just plant it on the plants.
What do we do with the worm pee and the worm poo?
Go outside and put the wee and the poo to the plants, and then the plants could grow a little bit.
Can you tell us about the worm farm you have in your classroom?
In our classroom, we started with a little worm farm that you showed us. It was really, really fun because everybody was always taking care of it, and in class, sometimes we had to work on it.
Did everyone in your class like the worms?
At the start, some people, they were a bit scared, but then they started touching, and I think most of the class liked too.
You're listening to a Cooey podcast with Scott Poynton. Read about this episode and listen back to more Cooey podcasts at scottpoynton.com.
I mean, one of the ideas behind the project was to help kids, really connect with nature. I mean, we're living in a great place here in Switzerland. We look out the window to the snow-capped mountains of the Jura. We are surrounded by nature, but still a lot of kids live in towns and cities and apartments, and just not having that day-to-day connection with nature can be a problem, I think.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the kids are really getting, by picking up the worms and understanding about how recycling happens and how the dead matter from their apple or their tomato sandwich can be converted back into good quality humus, goes back onto the eco garden from when they harvest new tomatoes? Are they kids seeing the cycle? Are they understanding a bit more of these things?
They see it for sure. They notice worms. If we're outside in the eco garden, they'll notice outdoor worms and they'll make observations on how the outdoor worms are different to the indoor worms. They want to know what the worms eat, what they don't eat, how it all works. They want to know what's inside a worm. They want to measure the worms.
Wow.
They want to know as much as possible about the worms.
So it's becoming a bit like a science project, in fact. I mean, I don't know when we came and set the initial thing up, I don't know if we sort of knew where it was going to go, really.
No.
But it's become a bit like a science project, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the links to other areas of the curriculum that are amazing. I didn't even think it would go this far. There's kids that want to write about the worms. We read books about the worms. There's lots of children's books that are fiction books, funny books about worms, but then they want to look at non-fiction books and learn more about worms. I had a group of kids who wanted to measure a group of worms and they wanted to find smallest to biggest.
Okay.
But they couldn't line them up because some worms would be wriggling, some would be straight. But they sat there for about an hour trying to work out the best way to properly measure these worms and put them in order. And one of the children didn't speak English at the start of the year. His English is still quite limited, but he was using words like smaller, bigger.
That's incredible.
Totally inspired by the worms.
That's amazing. Well, it gives me great joy to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Where do you think the project can go in the future? Do you think... are other teachers coming into the classroom who haven't got a worm farm? Are they starting to understand how this is linking into the rest of the curriculum and helping the kids?
The 10 classes that do have the worm farms, when I say it's just 10 of 27, the classrooms are shared sometimes by more than one class.
Okay.
Because we are a bilingual school, so sometimes the English classes swap classes with the French classes. So there might be a worm farm in an English class, but then the children from the French class come into that class as well and they're exposed to the worm farm. So probably every child in this school knows something about worms. Do you know anything about what's inside of a worm?
No. I have a book about worms.
What do you know about worms?
I know that they eat a lot of stuff,
What sort of stuff?
like hair, paper, apples, crumbs even probably. It
Yeah.
depends what it is.
What do you know about what's inside of a worm?
I know that has a lot of hearts.
How many hearts?
5.
Why do you think they have 5 hearts?
Because if a worm gets chopped and it loses one of its hearts, maybe the other hearts make sure the worm keeps on staying alive.
How many kids?
There's 600 kids in the school.
600 kids learning about worms. I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
And learning about recycling and nature. And I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of science to worms. Worms have 5 hearts. Who knew?
Yeah,
So, this could be something the kids will really get into, I imagine.
and they do.
One of the things that I wondered about, so 600 kids are getting exposed to worms, but what about the school canteen? When the kids go into the canteen to have lunch, I imagine there's a lot of food waste just in the preparation of the food, in leftovers. Obviously not everything can go into a worm farm, but do you think there's scale for the kids to investigate what could happen there? Obviously you're dealing with the little ones, the little 5-year-olds, but if it's 600 kids, I guess all of the kids in the school are seeing it.
Yeah.
Could there be scope to get perhaps a larger scale, I wouldn't necessarily say commercial scale, but a larger scale worm farm where the kids can see what their food waste is going into in the cafeteria? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that probably is the next step in the project, because I have had some teachers come to me and say, it's a bit sad that we can't put all our food into the worm farm, because we have had a few problems where some classes have overfed the worms or underfed the worms or put some food in that the worms don't like.
Have you become an expert in worm menus?
I'm pretty good at getting the balance right now.
Good, yeah.
But some teachers have said sometimes we can't put all the scraps into our worm farm. So it seems a bit sad to then put that in the bin, the leftovers in the bin. So could we have a bigger area where we could put more compost? Yeah. And the cafeteria would be a good place. Also, I was thinking the staff room, because the teachers have a lot of food waste as well.
Yeah, great. I mean, there are bigger ones you can get, and they don't smell, do they? If you put the right food in there and it doesn't rot, and the worms get through it pretty quick, don't they?
Yeah.
You mentioned the different products from the worm farm. You're getting the compost, obviously the soil, but you guys using the worm tea, as they call it, as well, the liquid that comes out. Yes,
we probably use that the most, because at the moment my farm is producing quite a lot of worm tea daily. So we're using it on the indoor plants.
And how do the plants feel about all this? Are they flourishing in there?
They are flourishing.
Flowers?
I actually gave a worm farm to my dad for Christmas a few years ago when I was getting right into the worm farms. And he's the biggest advocate for worm farms. And when anyone comes into his house, he takes them into the garden and shows them how well the plants are doing. That's just terrific. From the worm
Just
pit.
from the worm farm.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all his organic waste has gone down as well.
It's gone, yeah.
That's terrific. Well, maybe we should go and see some worms. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Do you think worms are good for the earth?
Yes,
Why?
because they help crops grow and help our soil stay nice and fresh.
Do you like worms?
Yeah,
What do you like about worms?
that they're good for the world.
You've been listening to Briony Taylor, inspiring teacher and worm farmer extraordinaire. Briony and her colleagues at La Chat are doing great things with the Eco Garden and worm farms, as are thousands of other teachers around the world who are helping kids understand natural cycles. I think it's really inspiring. In my next Cooey podcast, I'm going to stick with the theme of worm farming. I'll be speaking with Sarah Molador, who is just back from Palestine, where we're looking to set up a worm farming project with some terrific folk. I'm Scott Poynton. Thanks for listening.